So today we're going to take a look at overhauling a hard plastic steering wheel. Now steering wheels can be terribly hard to remove, and there's nothing on here in terms of puller tool receptacles that you can fit to sort of get these things off. Now traditionally what you would do is you'd leave the nut at the top of the thread and you could put your feet against the firewall, grab a steering wheel and wiggle it side to side to remove it. Now the problem with doing that on these cars is you get these cracks. Now these are, I don't know if you can see that, these cracks here, and there's another one on this side, so we've got to repair those. The other way you can do them, of course, is by taking that horn wire out and putting a big soft drift down on the steering column while you pull up and pull from here. Now the way I did it was I took the nut off and soaked in here in CRC, and a day or two later it just came straight off, so it wasn't hard to get off. So we've got to repair these cracks here because they're not roadworthy, much less they're sort of a bit unsightly, so we'll get into that now. Getting ready to start on the steering wheel. Probably a bit of overkill with these with this respirator on. I haven't got a dust mask though, and I don't really know what's made up in the composition of this wheel. Just looks like hard plastic to me. Now we can't fill this until it's a little bit wider. That's a crack, and if I fill that it'll probably just re-crack again. So I'm going to cut a V into the crack with a Dremel. Certainly not the most attractive of finishes, but you can see how deep I've had to go. Some of the plastic started to break off as I was going out of it, so I've sort of just channeled it all the way around to give the filler something to adhere to. Now if you use automotive filler, car filler and so forth, that'll be fine for a year or so, but after that it's going to start getting a hairline crack around it, and before you know you're back to square one. And the reason for that is because automotive filler is very hard and it won't expand and contract like this plastic will. So we've got to use something that's going to expand and contract the same as what the plastic will. You'll have to excuse my very, very messy bench, but once you've, I've found a whole lot of other areas that need to be filled. Now, once you've done these, if you can see the end of the crack, you can drill it. A crack won't go past a drilled hole, but you have to make sure you've got the very end of it. I've just dug all these out with the Dremel, blown off with compressed air, and I'm ready to go. Got my old 2480 steering column here, or steering rod. This is a great way to mount these things. So I can sit it on there while I start to fill. Now the stuff I'm using is nothing more than araldite. This stuff's great. It'll expand and contract with the wheel, and the other thing that's really good about it, that's excellent about it, is it's really sandable when it goes off. Now this isn't 5mm araldite, I don't know what that's like, I've never used it, but it's just regular run-of-the-mill stuff. Now the disadvantage with this stuff is it's quite runny, so when you put it in your you can be quite untidy about this, it doesn't really matter, but when you put it in your crack, the steering wheel's crack, it's going to want to run out, and by the time that goes off tomorrow it will have all been on the bench. But the one thing araldite does, it'll stick to pretty much anything, but it never ever sticks to masking tape. And so when you've done all this, you can tape it up and it'll stay there. It's going all around this crack to the edge of it, to make sure I've got it all covered, so to speak. Now I'm going to be mixing a few batches of this. Now it might take a couple of applications to really get it how you want it. In other words, I might sand this off tomorrow and then find that there's a few low spots, but it doesn't really matter. Let's put this tape over there. And you can see underneath the tape the stuff spreading out, and that's what you want. You want to be able to spread it into all those little nooks and crannies that you've created with your Dremel. And the wheel's going to look a lot worse before it looks a lot better, so you've got to expect that. I might take this glove off. Got a bit more feel without the gloves on, so I can really wrap the thing up nice and tight, like that. And what that'll allow me to do is I can massage the adhesive into all the cracks, and you'll see tomorrow when I go and unravel all this just how brilliant it is. That's all looking pretty good there, but there's still a recessed part there, so I'll have to refill parts of this and give it another wrap up before I can sand it down finally and prime it. The main thing when you sand these down, the flats need to be flat, but not just that, your fingers tend to rest in areas like this, and you need to get those transitions there dead smooth. Now, use whatever's available to you. This is just a 1/2 inch drive extension that I've wrapped up. I've used a bit of 80 to get it down, and you can get right in. The circumference of the piece of the tool you're using is similar to what you're trying to sand down. You don't want any lumps or any sharp bits that your fingers are going to feel when you're using the wheel. It has to be smooth all the way around. Right, getting ready to paint this. So a little bit of prep wash. All the filling's been done. Mixed up some primer. I might have got that a bit thin. I might have to thicken that out. But I've mixed in a Flex Aid. This was used a lot in 1980s applications. You know, rubber spoilers, the deck lid spoilers or the boot lid spoilers that you could squeeze with your hands. It makes the paint, which is originally very, very rigid, flexible, so that with expansion and contraction on the wheel, we shouldn't get any crazing on it. I prime the wheel. There's a couple of little repairs I wouldn't mind doing. I'm a little bit desperate though to get this thing finished, because I reckon we're going to have pretty much constant rain or at least frosty weather until we get to about October. So I want to pack the guns up and prepare for winter. I don't normally work out here in the winter, and as soon as I get a chance I want to start on this thing here. So I've got a couple of coats of primer, 2 coats of colour, and I've just put the first coat of clear on. So I'll give it another coat, and I reckon then it's going to look really, really good in the car. Now these set of horn buttons can be reconditioned as well. This is a little bit crazed and so forth. They gave it a light polish at the top, but on the back they're sort of a candy colour. They're painted red and they've got a silver backing there. You can take that silver off as long as you leave the sort of goldy colour on the inside part where the wreath is and the W. And you can use this modelling type polycarbonate paint to paint from behind. You can get some lovely reds and all that sort of stuff, and that way you don't need to put the silver on. It'll actually, it's not a transparent coat, but it'll give you that lovely colour. And I'm not going to do that today because I haven't got time, and nor have I got the right colour either, so I'll have to do that at a later date. Here's the Galaxy's wheel. I did this a couple of years ago. I've embellished it with these chrome strips. These are just a very thin chrome pinstripe type tape that went over the base colour. I stuck those strips down and then I clear coated the whole thing. This wheel was originally dark brown. It was pretty unattractive, but I wanted to sort of jazz it up a little bit, so I did that and the honey pot in the cream with the chrome bezel, and I reckon that just looks the duck's guts. The black one I've just done now that we're talking about doesn't need those embellishing moulds, but they're sort of quite easy to put on and they stay there nicely. So I must say, all told, I'm pretty happy. Hasn't cost anything to do really, and the results, in my opinion, more than satisfactory.